Greetings, everyone. Anita Stewart McCafferty here with you to walk you through Module 5 of our course EDU 679. And it's my pleasure to be welcoming you from Rockland Harbor here in Owl's Head. And my family and I are staying here for a week or so, so it's kind of a fun diversion to the work at hand. So it's my pleasure to kind of have you think about two really important topics for this week: curriculum and interim assessment, and why it's important for the school leader to be knowledgeable of both. And then also we're going to continue our skill building around our classroom observations using videos and aligning them to different frameworks. This week, the framework that we'll focus on is Charlotte Danielson's framework. So our guiding questions are as follows. Why is it important for school leaders to be knowledgeable about the curriculum and assessment of their school's classrooms? How do we align our classroom observations to agreed upon standards of practice? And in this case, that will be the Danielson framework. And the third guiding question, what are the characteristics of effective feedback? How do we help create school climates where meaningful feedback about our teaching and our practices is the norm? Our 4 module objectives for this week are as follows. Explain the importance of curriculum and assessment knowledge by the school leader of the school's classrooms. And this really is in the service of helping to improve teaching and learning. The second objective, identify effective teacher moves from classroom instruction. So again, that's an ongoing piece of work that we're going to do, thinking about the impact of the choices that we make as educators and on student learning. The third objective is to align observational data from mini observations with the Danielson framework. And the fourth is to develop probing and reflective questions for use in our feedback conferences with the teachers that we observe and that we have the pleasure of serving. So this week, we're going to move back to our Kim Marshall text, and you'll be asked to read chapters 5 and 6 from Rethinking Teacher Supervision and Evaluation, that second edition. You will also have the opportunity to watch a couple of videos, shorter keynotes from Charlotte Danielson, who is the author of the framework that we'll be practicing with today. Now, Danielson is one of those creators of the teacher evaluation framework that is standard throughout the United States, at least. It's been around for quite some time. The last time it was reframed was in 2013. So we're going to look at the 2013 version of that model of teaching and learning. You'll also be practicing your classroom observation skills, which include being able to collect meaningful data and engage in feedback conversations with teachers, and be able to align whatever you're observing to standards of practice. And in this case, that will be Charlotte Danielson's framework. So a very similar process to what we've done up until this point, where you'll choose from the list of videos, or you're welcome to choose a video of your own, either one of your own teaching or something that you find online, or maybe you have from a colleague. That would be good practice for this Danielson framework. And then you're going to also choose an observation form. So with the assignment, I have uploaded a couple, like an informal observation form, which looks at the 4 domains from Danielson to be able to collect data. There's a walkthrough form from a school district, and there's also a lesson observation form that's aligned to the Danielson framework that's used in some teacher prep programs. And you might have an observation form of your own, or one that we've formally used, such as the Praise, Probe, and Polish, or the content standards impact form, a questioning form, whatever you might want to use as practice. Now, I just want to remind you that it's in your best interest to practice a variety of tools as we practice aligning them to a variety of sets of standards, and also using a variety of grade levels and content areas as the window into this idea of classroom evaluation and supervision. And your discussion prompt for this week is really focused on curriculum and assessment leadership and thinking about why it's important for the school leader to really be knowledgeable about curriculum and assessment and how it relates to helping to improve the teaching and learning. So why is it important, and what's at least one concrete idea for improving your knowledge of curriculum, assessment, and instruction as a school or teacher leader? I always like to tell this story about my first role as a school principal at a middle school. And in the district that I was principal, there were 2 middle schools. So there was a neighboring town, and it was a smaller school. And the gentleman that was a principal there, the first time that I visited his school for a meeting between he and I went into his office, and then he had a connecting conference room. And there were pieces of chart paper that lined the entire conference room and office. And it wasn't all pretty and beautiful, right? Color coded and nice and neat. It was really a work in progress. So there were Post-it notes, there were things that were crossed out, there were revisions that had been made right on the chart paper. And I was really curious about what was going on. I could tell that it was kind of a curriculum mapping. There were some guiding questions and important objectives and unit topics and sequence and things, you know, arrows here and dates and times that had been removed. And so when the principal joined me for the meeting, he said, "You won't mind, will you, if I leave the door open, because I anticipate that I will have some teachers that will be coming into making adjustments to their curriculum maps." And so I asked him to tell me more about this. And his way of keeping a finger on what was happening in the school so that he would have a context when he walked into classrooms to observe them, which he did very regularly, was to have them update this chart, the chart paper, where they were letting him know the units, major objectives, major contents and guiding questions, maybe the assessments, and where they were in the unit and how that unit then would transfer into the next unit and speak to the unit before that. And so it was this fascinating and eye-opening experience for me, because I tended to have, my office was, you know, interior decorated. That's how it looked to me. And I was very much a curriculum and assessment leader, but it really took the place of beautiful documents on my laptop, or if there was chart paper, then I would never display it until it was, you know, perfectly ready to go. And if there was adjustments to it, I would either, you know, scrap that piece of the chart paper and add a new piece, or there would be whiteout or something that to me looked, you know, was color coded and all that kind of thing. But what I learned from his experience is that his walls were living and breathing the curriculum that was happening by his teachers. And they knew that it was important to him that as they made adjustment to their time frame or to the way that they were sequencing or the way that they were thinking about their units, that they updated it. So I love that experience, because it really helped me to think about this process that in my mind was messy, and, you know, it didn't look like it belonged as decoration on your office walls. And he didn't see it as decoration. He saw it as the meaningful work that was going on. And so I want to encourage you to think about the different processes and structures and tools and formats that you might use as a teacher leader or a school leader to really help make sure that you have a grasp about the curriculum and assessment that's happening in your classrooms. Let me just take another brief moment And I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to take a look at, let's take a look at the Danielson framework. And I just want to walk you through that framework real quickly. So at this point, you should be seeing my screen, and this is the Module 5 assessment, the classroom video observation, which is aligned to Danielson model. And I'm just gonna click on a couple of things. I'm gonna click on this smart card, which is gonna give you a quick and dirty overview look at Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching. So domain 1 is in the top upper left corner, and it's all about planning and preparation. And you can see the 6 elements that make up that domain. Then to the top right, you'll see domain 2, which is all about the classroom environment and the 5 elements that are making up domain 2. The bottom right is this pinkish coral color, and it is domain 3, instruction, and again, the 5 elements that are making up that domain. Moving to the bottom left is professional responsibilities, which is domain 4, and the 6 components of that domain. So that kind of gives you the overview of the Charlotte Danielson framework. There are a couple of other resources in this assignment. One of them is a PDF of her framework, the 2013. So this is the evaluation instrument that goes along with the framework for teaching. And so you'll have the opportunity to kind of walk through the explanation of the 2007 edition and then the changes that have been made to the 2013 edition. So I encourage you to spend some time looking over the Danielson model. Another piece that might be helpful for you is to look at the rubrics that are aligned to that evaluation instrument for the framework for teaching. So this is the rubric for domain 1, planning and preparation, domain 2, the classroom environment, and you can kind of see across the top are the performance levels that she uses: unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, and distinguished. Now, just like in the Marshall rubrics, one of the ways that you can always use a rubric as a tool for observation is if you're going into a classroom, you might just be looking, okay, today I'm just going to focus on the classroom environment. And as I see things, I might be highlighting them in the rubric, or I might be taking notes over here in this component section. So 2A, create an environment of respect and rapport. You might take a few bulleted notes right here about what you are seeing with regards to any of these components for domain 2 or any of the other domains. So think about a rubric as an option of not just evaluating the rating score for the performance level, but as a note-taking tool. Another thing that I'll show you is this informal observation form that's aligned to the Danielson domains. And these are really meant to be, during maybe unannounced or mini observations, so short duration, where you're going to take notes on each of the domains. These might be effective teacher moves that you're witnessing or notes from the observation. And there's a place for the name of the teacher, the name of the observer and date, and if there is a conference that might be requested. So a tool that could be used with regards to that. So the idea for this week is to have you play around, become much more familiar with the Danielson framework, and see how you can apply it to classroom observations. I hope that you have a wonderful week of learning and experimenting with the Danielson framework, and also thinking about who you are and who you would like to be as a school leader, as a teacher leader, around being familiar with curriculum and assessment. Bye-bye.